Okay, well, this has been quite a show, and now I am so anxious to talk to Dr. Landry. This book is so fantastic. Good morning, Dr. Landry.
Good morning, Anita. I've been so looking forward to this myself.
Wow, I am so impressed. I read a lot of books, and I must say that this was the kind of book I just read every page. I mean, how long did this take you to write?
Well, the actual writing, about a year and a half, but it took a lot of years of thinking and preparing and wondering if indeed I could contribute anything to the literature. But once it got going, it was a labor of love, I'll tell you.
Well, the whole term masterpiece living, everyone wants to have a masterpiece living. Why don't you share with everyone what you say that is? Well,
the MacArthur study on aging, which happened between 1980s and 1990s, sponsored by the MacArthur Foundation and precipitated, by the way, by Jonas Salk. He's the one who wanted them to study why is it that some people age in such a better way. And their conclusions smashed our stereotype of aging forever because they found that it was lifestyle. 70% of how we age was about lifestyle. We got a group together shortly after that, and we wanted to apply that knowledge. And we got some people from that MacArthur Foundation study, Dr. Kahn himself, who was one of the co-leaders, and began to explore a way that we could put some tools in the hands of an individual so that they could assess where they are with their lifestyle, where their risks are, and then be able to provide them a coach so that they could do whatever they wanted to do to lower their risk and age in a better way, age successfully. And that group morphed into a group called Masterpiece Living. It's our company, and we partner with communities, mostly retirement communities now, but also senior centers and soon cities, so that we can create environments where this is more likely to happen.
And you know, down here in South Florida, we actually have one. When I was reading your the list of the places that you have, and
that's very true.
Yeah, so we do, and it's really interesting. And as a matter of fact, I just wanted to tell everybody which one it was here in South Florida. I kind of lost it here. I'll tell you. Palm Beach Gardens, La Posada.
Yes.
Is that the only one you have here in South Florida?
In South Florida. We have one over in Tampa, University Village, which is actually was our first. It was our pilot community, and so that's been going for over 12 years, and gets better every day. And we now have partners with over 70 communities throughout the nation, and that's growing pretty quickly, by the way, because I believe everyone realizes this new older adult we have out there. They don't want just granite tops, and they don't want to just have people do things for them. They want to go to a place where they're not only going to have fun, but where they're going to continue to grow, almost like going to a university, Anita.
Yes.
Remember, you go to grow physically and intellectually and socially and spiritually, and that's the kind of environment we're building. So, again, they're all throughout the nation, and we're pleased that they're growing.
You know, you have some wonderful headlines. I don't know if someone helped you write this book, but it's pretty genius. I have to say this, like the warrior in us. Someone I know has lung cancer, and she's quite a wonderful woman. And I said that to her. I said, let the warrior in you come out. I did it because of your book, actually. I love that term.
Well, Anita, I'll be honest with you. It gives me the goosebumps to hear that. That is wonderful to hear. I was advised in order to get this book done quickly to have someone write it for me, but I just couldn't do that. So it took a little longer, but it's everything that I believe and believe firmly and have for the 35 years I've been a preventive medicine physician. And that warrior one was about, our lifestyle so influences how we age and how we respond to life's curveballs. If we are living a lifestyle where we're physically active, we're challenging our minds, we're socially connected, and we have purpose, we develop a resilience so that we can handle those slings and arrows that life gives us. And the warrior image was the best that I could come up with relative to being active and not just letting things happen to you and feel like you're defeated.
Well, one thing I just want to share with our audience, Dr. Roger Landry is a former Air Force surgeon and a preventive medicine physician. this is really amazing. So you were actually in the Air Force. My husband, and you'll enjoy this, I don't know if I told you this in any of the letters, but maybe I did when I first met Smith Publicity, but my husband is now 90. He'll be 91, and he flew 35 missions in a B-17.
How ironic is that? My dad did that. Also.
No way!
Absolutely. 35 missions in a B-17. And actually, that's how I got my name. I was born in 46, a lead boomer, and he came back, and all he had heard was Roger this, Roger that, Roger this, Roger that. So.
Oh, Roger! That's fantastic.
I was, Anita, the term, I was a flight surgeon. Now, that's a military term for a doctor who takes care of flyers. So I was the kind of doctor who was taking care of your husband and other crew members, and, you fly with them, and you deploy with them, you live with them, and they're just a magnificent bunch of patriots.
Yeah, is your dad still around?
No, he left us some 20 years ago. My mom just blossomed. Not that he kept her back, but she read she would go to read my articles and go to my presentations, and I watched her blossom. So it was very close, and she lived up until about a year ago. She was a going concern.
Oh, that is great. Well, my husband is an author. He's creating huge things. He's been a city planner, and so I'm very proud of him, and he does great. And so this live long, die short is a very important aspect. And I think what I really liked was, why do you want to live long if you're in a wheelchair and you're sick and you're all those other things? It's better to live that life as best you can, and then one night you die.
Well, that's true. The title comes from a public health term, which is compression of morbidity. Morbidity is when we're sick and impaired, and we want to compress the time that we're sick and impaired, rather than the stereotype of aging, which is we're born, we're our best, and then we spend a long period with chronic diseases declining. And you're right. Who wants to live under some of those circumstances? I believe that we can grow all the time. Stephen Hawking showed us that.
Yes. Oh, yeah. I'm glad you brought him up. Isn't he something?
He is something. So that if those things happen to you, it's not time to give up. But the thing is, we know now that our lifestyle can perhaps preclude some of that morbidity, some of that sickness and impairment. By living a lifestyle, we're more likely to stay going concerns, 80's the new 50 and that sort of thing, and compress the time that we are really dying, essentially. So who doesn't want to do that, right, Anita?
Exactly. And, it's this challenge your brain. That's one of your chapters. Isn't that really, the brain now has taken on such an important part. The brain was just kind of put off to the side because we didn't realize the plasticity, everything now is like the brain, that's it. So you as a physician, have you always realized the brain was so important?
Well, you are correct in how important it is, and to answer your question, no, because when I was in medical school, that's what they taught us.
Right.
The brain was, once you matured, it was somewhat of a static organ, and all you did is lose brain cells until the point came where you couldn't function and you were demented. And we know now, we have the ability to scan brains, and we know so much more about the brains, and it is so optimistic. We know that we are the architects of our brain. If we challenge our brain, the brain changes. We grow new brain tissue, new pathways. And those pathways, it seems, protect us from the onset of dementia. It's sort of a redundant system. Have you heard of the NUN study, Anita? I'm sure you must have.
The NUN study? No, I haven't.
Well, the NUN's study
was the NUN study. Oh, yes. I'm sorry.
Nuns,
I thought you said NONE. Yeah. I said, no, I haven't heard of a NUN study. No, the NUN study, yes.
Yeah, it's a study where nothing happened. No.
You're right.
No, NUN. And these
Yes.
nuns were in Minnesota, and they lived lifestyles where they were very physically active and very intellectually and active, and they continued to learn. And when they died, several of them, and they were old, they all had agreed to autopsy. Several of them had Alzheimer's brains with the plaques and the twisted nerves, and yet did not have symptoms. This was incredibly confusing to the researchers, but what they concluded, and and this is mainline science now, is that lifestyle, even if we have a genetic predisposition to developing Alzheimer's, or even if we actually, as these nuns, had a brain that looks like Alzheimer's, we can delay the onset of symptoms. And so, once again, lifestyle is putting us in the driver's seat as to what our life is going to be like, even when disease is nipping at our heels.
Yeah, I'm just looking, I have your book in front of me, and I have to tell people, if you haven't bought a book lately, this is the book you want to buy. It's so good. I'm going to tell you its name again. It's Live Long, Die Short. It's a guide to authentic health and successful aging by Dr. Roger Landry, Landry. You can get it on Amazon. It absolutely, it will just perk you up. It will make you feel so good no matter how old or young you are. There's been a lot of research. He's lived this life. He's had his father, his mother. He's experimented with a lot of things because that's what he cares so much about. And the book is just spellbinding. I just have to say that.
Anita, you're so kind.
Well, it is. I mean, and as I said, I wrote a book with my husband in 1992 called Live to be 100 Plus.
Yes, I read it.
Oh, good. Thank you. And, it's interesting.
Well done.
Thank you. In 1992, I used to make a lot of speeches, and people would say, oh, what do you mean live to 100? I said, of course you're going to live to 100 if you do these things. And we did like a kind of a simulation of a test. And it's amazing. They were living to 102, 105. And I said, life is not what you used to think it was. It's a whole new world. And your masterpiece, Living, which is such a good name. Again, I must share that with you. It is really the way, you talk about laughing, you talk about educating, doing, getting into coursework, and enjoying yourself, the connections, the children. People know it, but they have to read it somehow.
Well, I think that's what I was really trying to do, Anita, is to show people that, first of all, the choices they make will determine how they age. And secondly, it is easy to do. It's very easy to do. It's not that we have to run marathons or bungee jump or just eat artichokes or some crazy things like that. We can do it, and a major theme within the book is that the way we attempt lifestyle change in this country is almost always doomed to failure. It's the New Year's resolution grand gesture. The Japanese have something they call kaizen, which is an approach to change, which means baby steps. And so I purposely spent a lot of time in the book guiding people through this principle of if you want to change, do it slowly. I'd love to tell you a story that elucidates this. If
please. Please.
This gentleman was a patient of mine who was certainly a heart attack nightmare. He had high blood pressure and high fats and was overweight, and he was definitely going to have a heart attack, and we had difficulty getting him to change some of his lifestyle. So having researched for this book, I advised him, I'll tell you what, this next 2 weeks, just stand during TV commercials. He said, that's it? Yeah, that's it. Just stand. And he did. And then I asked him, and he came back all puffed up because he had done that, and he felt proud that he could do something. And then I said, okay, now I want you to walk in place for those TV commercials. And he did that. So you get the idea. It was a very slow progression. He started going outside, walking 1 minute, then 2 minutes, and 3 minutes. And over time, he now walks 3 miles every day. All of his parameters are down. His risk is down. He's a much healthier man. Just small steps. Small steps.
There's something I just like to take. I do want you to talk, but I just have to read maybe about 10 lines from your.
I would be honored.
Yeah, I just have to. It's so perfect, and it's the title. It's Never Act Your Age is the chapter, but it's called Turning the Clock Back. And Dr. Ellen Langer, a Harvard University researcher, conducted a now famous study back in the late 70s. Using older men as subjects, she immersed them in an environment from 20 years earlier. Room trappings were from the 50s. Conversation about 50s era topics was in present tense. Recorded radio programs were 50s vintage. This immersion resulted in the men acting in ways similar to their 20 years younger self. walking more, carrying their own luggage, doing things that had previously been done for them. The results, after only 1 week, were stunning. Vision, hearing, cognitive skills all improved. Even photos of the subjects before and after the study improved, with subjects looking younger. That was so important. And I think if everyone listening to the show now would just do that, look at your pictures. I'm sure you have them in your albums of what you look like 20 years ago, 30 years ago, whatever you have, and see if you can think the way that you did then. I am so fascinated by what you have concluded here.
Ellen Langer is just a cutting-edge researcher. It is just absolutely magnificent. And you know what? What this leads to is something that we in medicine have dealt with, and that's the placebo effect. You know, we were taught in medical school that if someone responds to a placebo, or you give them a sugar pill and they get better, we thought, well, then they really weren't sick. But we know now through Ellen's work, because this is related to what she did with these gentlemen, is that if indeed we believe that we can be better, we believe we can live our healthier life. It's not that it's just magical. It's just that our brain begins to program us to make that come true. This is just out of the world stuff as far as my medical school curriculum back in the 70s. But she has demonstrated this and she has a book called Counterclockwise where she talks about this. Magnificent study, but the point is we are in more control than what we think. And positive thinking and attempting to live a lifestyle and just chipping away at it, improving every day, it will have magnificent results.
Well, Dr. Wayne Dyer, one of the books that I adore that he wrote was, If You Believe It, You'll See It.
Absolutely. He's an icon, and of course, he is absolutely correct. And there's others who say we become what we think about, you know, and we also become very much like those we hang around with, so to speak. If we are with positive people who are active and want to age well, we tend to take on those same characteristics, and unfortunately, the other way around, if we're with sedentary people who are at high risk.
Well, the Masterpiece Living, this was a great and brilliant, it was, I guess at the beginning maybe it was an experiment, but it has really turned out to be quite good. So are you doing, I guess, is there going to be a book called The Masterpiece Living?
Well, as you know, since you obviously read it, Anita, and I'm honored that I tell the story of Masterpiece Living in this book. But yes, we have been collecting data now for over 15 years, and we're doing that because it is our ultimate goal to influence public policy so that this country becomes a better place to age. You know, you probably heard of the blue zones where from Dan Buettner's book, The Blue Zones. These are areas in the world where people age and grow old, but are also very vital. And the characteristics of those are the same that we're talking about, and the MacArthur Foundation talked about. And we can do this, but we're gathering that data in order to build a compelling argument to change the world, so to speak. But we're doing it one retirement community and soon one city at a time.
I love it. I'll bet when you were in your 20s, you never envisioned you'd be doing something like this.
Not at all. I was going to be a cardiologist, Anita. That's what I was going to do, which would have been noble, but
yep.
The military intervened, and,
right.
Working with them, that was preventive, and I loved it.
Yeah, it's great. And I don't want to embarrass our board operator, but he's going to be 30 tomorrow, and he's suffering. Do you have he is so charming. He's so smart. He's going now back to get his college degree. He is a terrific guy. And when he said that, he said, I'm really suffering to be 30. I said, are you kidding? So what should we tell him, Dr. Landry?
Well, this message is for kindergarten, really. I think this message is for everybody. The life we will lead, the quality of our lives is really determined by the choices we make. And, age is just a number, and it's what's in our hearts and minds that matters. And if we take care of our bodies, we'll be able to transport those heart and minds and around the world and have terrific experiences and get the most out of life. Age is just a number. If we get 1 second, I got a great story.
Please, we do.
I met Chuck Yeager in my career, and actually it's in the book. the famous man who broke the sound barrier. And when I met him, I had done a physical, and he said, "You know, Doc, I think on the 50th anniversary of breaking the sound barrier, I'm going to do it again." Now, I was around 30, thinking I knew everything, and I said to the Chuck Yeager, "But Chuck, you'll be 73 years old." And he looked at me, and said, "What is your point?"
Oh, my goodness.
And so it's just a number. It means nothing. Only if we allow it to. And remember Ellen Langer's work, because that is a beautiful example of how a number is just a number, and it means nothing.
Right, but we do have to educate society to believe that, because I know that my husband's trying to do a very big thing, and maybe personally we can talk about it another time, but and he almost, some people were advising, well, if they know that you're 90, they're not going to pay attention, why don't you just leave out your Air Force experience? And he actually did, and I was against it. I said, I can't believe you're going to do that, but he did. And then just recently we had another person come, are you kidding? You put that back in there, because it's society that just kind of labels you, and that's what we need to change.
Absolutely. That's what Masterpiece Living is about. That's what this book is about. Anita, you are doing magnificent work in that area, and you're both role models. And so, I mean, that you can't do better than that. So I'm pleased to be in the ranks with you to change policy.
Well, I will be, anything you need from me, I will be available. In fact, I'd like to get to I've really not been in La Posada, and if you have any connections there, I'd love for them to begin to work with us, because, I mean, I knew them years ago when they first started, but we don't see much about them, and now that I know what this is all about, I'd really like to jump in there and see what we could do together.
You bet, and University Village have been doing it even longer, and so I think they're showing some magnificent things, but you bet, we can make that happen.
Yeah, that would be super. So what are you going to do for your next 50 years?
I am going to grab at life, even though it may dish out a few stings. I'm going to be ready for them because I know they're coming, but I am going to enjoy every minute and be all that I can be, as the Army used to say.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's so good to have people like you there on the cutting edge. And everyone, please buy the book, Live Long, Die Short, A Guide to Authentic Health and Successful Aging by Dr. Roger Landry. And he's special, and we are very privileged. So enjoy your day today in California, and I hope we'll talk again soon.
Thank you, Anita. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, it was a pleasure for me, too. Thank you so much. Goodbye.
Bye.
You've been listening to The Stars Program with your host, Anita Finley. Join us every Saturday at this same time for another edition of Seniors Taking Active Roles in Society, right here on AM 740 WSBR. The opinions expressed on this sponsored program are strictly those of its host, guests, and callers and are not necessarily those of the station, its staff, management, or sponsors.